When she said those words to me, I finally saw the manipulation I'd been blind to for years. My name is Gordon Lawson, and I'm 35 years old. Each morning I wake at dawn, brew coffee, and head to my workshop where I build cabinets with the same hands that once held Michaela's. My wife Michaela Lawson chose Derek, the bouncer from downtown, over the life we built together. My attorney Lila Earwig assured me we would fight this systematically, gathering evidence while I somehow kept breathing. There's a particular silence that fills a home when someone takes not just their possessions but your trust. I traced the wood grain of our dining table, the one I'd crafted during our first year, and felt something harden inside me. This wasn't just about hurt, this was about justice. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. But let me start from the beginning. I woke up at 4:53 a.m., 7 minutes before my alarm. That's how it had been for 15 years. My body was on carpenter's time, no matter what day it was. Michaela used to tease me about it, back when she thought my discipline was charming instead of boring. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator we'd bought last spring. I'd built this place with my own hands. Every door frame, every cabinet, every bit of trim. North Coast carpentry might have been my business, but this house was my heart. I padded into the kitchen to start coffee, noticing Michaela's phone on the counter. She never left it out. The screen lit up with an incoming text, the bright blue light cutting through the dim morning. I wouldn't have looked, I'm not that guy, but the notification banner flashed a hotel name. Something cold settled in my stomach. The phone buzzed again. Another notification. Reservation confirmed for tonight. Can't wait. I picked it up. The screen was unlocked. She'd never worried about hiding things from me before. I scrolled through her messages, my fingers feeling numb against the glass. A thread with someone saved as D contained months of exchanges, hotel confirmations, intimate photos and plans. So many plans that didn't include me. I'll tell him soon. Promise. 2 more weeks and we can stop sneaking around. That message was dated 3 weeks ago. The air left my chest so completely I had to brace myself against the counter. 15 years of marriage collapsed into a text thread. The coffee maker beeped, oblivious to the way my world was splintering. I heard the shower shut off upstairs. Michaela would be down soon, probably expecting me to be gone already, headed to the workshop like every other morning. Instead, I poured 2 cups of coffee and set them on the island. Then I waited. She came down in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. She stopped cold when she saw me standing there. "Morning," I said, pushing a mug toward her. "Who's Derek?" Her face didn't register surprise, just resignation, like she'd been rehearsing this moment. "Someone who doesn't make me feel small," she said, her voice steady. "Someone who makes me feel alive." She untied her robe sash and retied it, a nervous habit she'd had since college. "We're done, Gordon. I want a divorce. You'll never find someone like me." I surprised myself by laughing. It bubbled up from somewhere dark and startled both of us. "That's the point, Michaela. I don't want someone like you." Her eyes narrowed. "You think anyone wants a man married to his tools? You think you can do better?" She shook her head. "Be realistic." "I am being realistic." I matched her tone. "Realistic means you cheated. Realistic means we split what's fair, not what you grab. Realistic means stop underestimating me." She jabbed a finger toward the fridge where we kept our budget binder. "Half the business, half the house, and spousal support. I sacrificed for your dream." "My dream built this roof," I said, my voice dropping lower. "Your sacrifice apparently lived in Derek's apartment." We circled the kitchen island like boxers in a ring. Her saying I bored her, that I was predictable, that Derek was adventurous. Me refusing to break or beg. "You were never there, Gordon. Always at the workshop, always with a project. Projects that paid for everything around us," I countered, "including the hotels you've been booking." Her face flushed. "I deserve more than this. More than a house I built. More than 15 years I invested. More than the truth." When she couldn't answer that, she turned away and walked upstairs. 20 minutes later, she came down with 2 suitcases I recognized from our trip to Maine last summer. She set them by the door and turned to face me one last time. "I'll have my lawyer contact yours," she said coldly. "I'm taking what I deserve." "Take what's fair," I replied. "But North Coast is mine. I built it before you, and I'll have it after you." "We'll see about that," she said, a small smile playing at her lips. "You have no idea what's coming, Gordon." She walked out, slamming the door so hard the frame shook. The house fell silent again, except now it was empty in a way it had never been before. 15 years of marriage ended over cold coffee and colder words. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, feeling the weight of her threat settle around me like sawdust after a cut. The morning after Michaela left, I sat across from my dad at Denny's, watching him doctor his coffee with the precision of a man who'd been doing it the same way for 40 years. 2 creamers, half a packet of sugar, 3 stirs clockwise. "She's gone," I said finally, my voice sounding hollow even to my own ears. "Left yesterday, been seeing someone named Derek." Dad nodded, letting the silence stretch between us. That was his way, measure twice, cut once, even in conversation. The breakfast crowd buzzed around us, families and truckers living in a world where marriages didn't implode over morning coffee. "And?" he prompted, knowing there was more. "And she wants half of everything, including North Coast." My hands tightened around my mug. Said I'll never find someone like her, like that's supposed to crush me. Dad's weathered face didn't change, but something in his eyes hardened. He'd built his life with quiet iron, what he called showing up every day, rain or shine, and doing what needed doing. He'd taught me the same. "Your mother left her first husband when you were 2, he said, surprising me. This was news. Man drank, couldn't hold work. When she met me, I promised her 2 things. I'd never touch a bottle, and I'd never stop working. 33 years later, here we are. I remembered summers helping him on job sites, the smell of sawdust and sweat, how he'd taught me to square a frame and run a level. "You built North Coast from scratch," he continued. "Before her, during her, and now you'll build after her. First thing you do is call Lila Earwig, best family attorney in the county. Second thing is you protect what's yours, not out of spite, out of respect for what you created. She's threatening to take everything, Dad. People threaten all kinds of things when they're wrong and know it," he said, signaling for the check. "The difference is in who follows through. Be the one who does." I nodded, feeling something solid return to my spine. "I'll call Lila today." "Good." He laid cash on the table. "And Gordon, sleep at Mason's for a while. Don't give her any ammunition about the house." Lila Earwig's office smelled like lemon polish and old books. She sat behind a desk that looked like it had witnessed a century of human drama. Her thin-framed glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed the documents I'd brought. "So she left yesterday, and you found evidence of an affair with this Derek," she summarized, looking up. "And now she wants half of North Coast Carpentry, which you established 5 years before you met her." "Yes." "And these hotel receipts?" She tapped the printouts. "From her phone, all paid from our joint account while she told me she was visiting her friend Kelly." Lila removed her glasses and pinched the bridge of her nose. "Mr. Lawson, do you realize what she's done here? This is dissipation of marital assets. She spent your mutual funds on an extramarital affair." The term sounded clinical, but it landed like a diagnosis. "What does that mean for the divorce?" "It means," Lila said, replacing her glasses, "that we have grounds to argue against her claims to your business. These hotel expenses, these transfers to D, they demonstrate financial misconduct." For the first time since Michaela walked out, I felt a flicker of something other than shock. Not relief, exactly. More like the steady confidence that comes from having the right tools for the job. "What do I do next?" I asked. Lila started writing on a legal pad. "First, we file. Second, you pull together every financial record you can find. Bank statements, business ledgers, tax returns. Third, you document everything from now on. And fourth, this is important, you move out temporarily. It neutralizes any claim she might make about forcing her out of the marital home." I thought of Dad's advice about Mason's place. "I can do that." "Good." She looked up from her notes. "Mr. Lawson, Divorces get ugly when people feel entitled to more than they've earned. Your wife seems to feel very entitled indeed. Are you prepared for a fight? I've been swinging hammers since I was 16, I said. I know how to work through pain. That evening I sat surrounded by stacks of paper in my home office. Bank statements going back 3 years, business records. The budget binder Michaela had once bragged about keeping so meticulously. The same binder that now showed her systematic withdrawal of funds every time Derek appeared in our lives. Around 11, the doorbell rang. Mason stood on the porch with a six-pack and determination written across his face. Heard the news, he said, stepping inside. Spare room's yours for as long as you need it. I felt a rush of gratitude so intense it nearly knocked me sideways. Thanks, man. My cousin went through something similar last year. Wife tried to claim he forced her out by staying in the house. He set the beer on the counter. Better to clear out, keep everything clean for court. We packed until midnight, loading boxes of clothes, tools, and records into my truck. I left the furniture. It didn't matter. What mattered was protecting North Coast and my sanity. As I carried the last box out, headlights swept the driveway. Michaela's car pulled up and she stepped out, Derek visible in the passenger seat. "Moving out so soon?" she called, her voice carrying that edge I'd never heard before last week. "Giving up already?" I set the box in the truck bed and turned to face her. Just being smart. Smart would be signing the agreement my lawyer's sending tomorrow. She stepped closer, Derek hanging back by the car like the coward he was. "Fight me on this, Gordon, and I'll make you regret it. I know exactly how much North Coast is worth." I gripped my truck keys, feeling the teeth dig into my palm. "You know what North Coast cost me in sweat? You have no idea what it's worth." She laughed, the sound sharp in the night air. "We'll see who's laughing when this is over." I climbed into my truck, closing the door on her words. The engine started with a reassuring rumble. I wouldn't be intimidated. Not by her, not by Derek hovering by the car, not by the threats hanging in the air between us. I gripped the steering wheel and backed out of the driveway, leaving Michaela standing in the glow of the porch light I'd installed 3 summers ago. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. I woke up the next morning to the unfamiliar ceiling of Mason's spare room. His house smelled different from mine. Coffee brewed stronger, air freshener with some pine scent that reminded me of Christmas at my parents' house. For a moment, I just lay there, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator down the hall, trying to make peace with this new reality. The bed was comfortable enough, but it wasn't mine. Nothing here was. I'd gone from homeowner to houseguest overnight. Mason had cleared space in his garage for my tools and materials. He'd emptied a bookshelf in the spare room for my clothes. Small kindnesses that felt monumental now. "You decent?" Mason's voice came through the door, followed by a knock. "Yeah, come in." I sat up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. He appeared with a mug of coffee. "Got a cabinet job at the Hendersons today?" I nodded, taking the coffee. "Thanks, yeah, installation should take most of the day." "Good, keep busy." Mason leaned against the doorframe. "I called my buddy at the bank. He can't give you any records without subpoenas, but he confirmed they keep video of all transactions for 90 days. Might be useful if Michaela was making withdrawals." I felt that same flicker of gratitude. "I'll tell Lila." "Do that." He pushed off the doorframe. "Shower's all yours. I'm heading out. Late shift today." After he left, I showered, dressed, and loaded my truck with the installation materials. Work kept me sane. Each cabinet I hung was a problem I could solve, unlike the mess Michaela had left me with. The Hendersons were nice people who didn't know about my situation, and I preferred it that way. Mrs. Henderson offered me lunch, which I accepted. We talked about the grain of the cherry wood, the quality of the hardware. Normal things. For 3 hours, I wasn't a man whose wife had left him for a bouncer named Derek. That night, I spread my materials across Mason's dining table. I'd bought a plastic file box at Office Depot on the way home, along with dividers and labels. I wrote receipts across the lid with a black Sharpie. There was something satisfying about organizing the evidence. Bank statements under B, Airbnb confirmations under A, text messages I'd printed from our shared cloud account under T. I found myself smiling at the irony. Michaela always complained I was too methodical, too patient with details. "It's why your cabinets are perfect and our conversations are boring," she'd said once. Now those same traits would protect me from her. Days fell into a rhythm. Work from 7 to 4, dinner at Mason's or sometimes with my parents, then evenings with the receipt box. Lila called with updates about filing dates and procedural steps. I learned more legal terminology in 2 weeks than I'd known my entire life. Then Lila set the date for our first mediation session. "Wear a suit," she instructed over the phone. "Speak only when I indicate you should. Let me handle Michaela and her attorney." The conference room at the mediator's office was aggressively neutral. Beige walls, wooden table, water pitcher with plastic cups. Michaela arrived in a dress I'd never seen, her attorney beside her carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than my first table saw. I nodded politely. She didn't return the gesture. The mediator, a gray-haired woman with reading glasses on a chain, explained the process. Then Michaela's attorney started with their demands. Half of North Coast carpentry, half the house, and monthly spousal support. "My client sacrificed career opportunities to support Mr. Lawson's business," he said smoothly. "She's entitled to benefit from its success." I felt my jaw tighten but kept my face neutral, just as Lila had coached me. Lila opened her folder calmly. "Before we discuss division of assets, we need to address Mrs. Lawson's financial misconduct during the marriage." She presented printouts of hotel charges, cash withdrawals, and Airbnb receipts, all coinciding with weekends Michaela claimed to be visiting friends. "These expenses total over $12,000 in the past year alone," Lila said. "Marital funds spent on an extramarital affair." Michaela's face flushed. "I supported Gordon emotionally for years. I listened to every boring story about wood grain and client complaints. That's worth something." "Emotional support isn't a line item, Mrs. Lawson," Lila replied evenly. The mediation continued for 3 hours, ending without resolution. The mediator suggested we reconvene in 2 weeks after reviewing financial disclosures. I drove back to Mason's in silence, knuckles white on the steering wheel. Seeing Michaela, composed, entitled, acting like I was the problem, had drained me in ways physical labor never could. My phone buzzed as I pulled into Mason's driveway. A text from Michaela. "You think you can win? Derek says you'll fold." I stared at the screen, anger and determination crystallizing into something harder, clearer. They both thought I'd break under pressure, that I'd give in rather than fight. They had no idea what I was made of. I went inside, straight to the dining room where my evidence box sat. I added a printout of her text message to the T section, then closed and locked the box. "I'm ready," I whispered to the empty room. "I'm ready for war." 4 months into the divorce proceedings, I needed copper fixtures for the Dalton remodel. I drove to Westfield Supply, where I'd been buying hardware since I started North Coast Carpentry. Their prices were fair and they didn't blink when I needed custom cuts. I was comparing 2 different drawer pulls when I heard someone say my name. "Gordon? Gordon Lawson?" I turned and saw a woman with light brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. It took me a second to place her. "Aubrey James?" "The very same." She smiled. "How long has it been?" "High school graduation, maybe?" I put the drawer pulls back on the display. "You were a year behind me, right?" "That's right." She nodded. "Class of '07. Aubrey had been quiet in high school, always reading in the corner of the cafeteria or working on projects alone. Now she stood with a confidence that surprised me, dressed in workout clothes and a light jacket. "You look great," I said, meaning it. "How have you been?" "Can't complain. I do fitness and catalog modeling now. Nothing major, but I enjoy it." She gestured to the drawer pulls. "Working on something interesting?" "Kitchen remodel for a couple in Oak Ridge. Nothing fancy, but they want quality work. And North Coast Carpentry delivers the best, from what I hear." Her smile was warm, not the practiced politeness I'd gotten used to from acquaintances who'd heard rumors about my marriage. "I try." I shifted my weight. "How'd you know about my business?" "I follow local businesses on social media. Your cabinet work is beautiful." She glanced at my cart. "How's life treating you otherwise?" I hesitated. "It's been turbulent lately." Something in my tone must have given me away because her expression softened. "I'm sorry to hear that. Listen, I was about to grab coffee at Brewstone across the street. Want to join me? Unless you're in a rush. Part of me wanted to decline. The last thing I needed was to explain my situation to someone I barely knew. But there was something genuine about Aubrey that made me nod. Sure, let me pay for these first. 20 minutes later, we sat in a corner booth at Brewstone, steam rising from our mugs. The cafe was quiet, just a few students with laptops and an elderly couple sharing a scone. So, Aubrey said after we'd exchanged basic life updates, what's the turbulence about? If you don't mind my asking. I took a deep breath. I'm getting divorced. 4 months in, and it's getting messier by the day. She nodded without the awkward pity I'd come to expect. That's tough. I went through one 3 years ago. Not as messy, but painful enough. I'm sorry to hear that. Ancient history now. She wrapped her hands around her mug. Can I tell you something weird? Sure. I had the biggest crush on you in high school. She laughed at my surprised expression. Junior year shop class. You helped me with my bookshelf project when Mr. Daniels was too busy to notice I was struggling. I remembered that class but couldn't recall helping her specifically. I don't remember that at all. You wouldn't. You were just being nice. She shrugged. I was too shy to say anything afterward. Figured the quiet girl with the sketchbooks wasn't on your radar. If it helps, I was pretty oblivious to most things in high school, I admitted. Too focused on getting grades that would land me a decent job. And now you run your own business, why? She smiled. Looks like the focus paid off. We talked easily for another half hour. She told me about her modeling work, mostly local catalogs and fitness companies, nothing glamorous but steady. I found myself relaxing in a way I hadn't in months. As we were about to leave, I felt I needed to be clear. Aubrey, I should say, I'm in the middle of a mess right now. I don't want to use anyone as a distraction or a life raft. She studied me for a moment, then nodded. Then let's just talk, Gordon. Talk is free. She pulled out her phone. Give me your number. Maybe we grab coffee again sometime. No pressure, no expectations. There was something refreshing about her directness. I gave her my number and walked her to her car. Thanks for the coffee, I said. Thanks for the company. She smiled before getting in her car. And Gordon? Whatever you're going through, you look like you're handling it with grace. That counts for something. I drove back to Mason's house feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The simple pleasure of normal conversation with someone who had no stake in my divorce had been more restorative than I expected. That evening, I called Lila to check in about next week's deposition. They've confirmed for Tuesday at 9, she said. We should meet Monday to prepare. I'll be there. I hesitated, then added, I ran into someone today. Someone from high school. We had coffee. Oh? I could hear the caution in her voice. Gordon, be careful about new relationships during divorce proceedings. They can be used against you. It's not like that, I insisted. Just coffee with an old classmate, Aubrey James. She does modeling work now. Lila was quiet for a moment. Just be aware that Michaela will play dirty in court. And my sources tell me Derek might appear as a surprise witness. The lightness I'd felt earlier evaporated. What would he testify about? That's what we need to find out. Her voice was grim. Get some rest this weekend. Tuesday's going to be a long day. Deposition day. I straightened my tie one last time in the elevator mirror and tried to silence the thunder in my chest. The doors opened and Lila was waiting, impeccable in a navy suit, holding a leather portfolio that looked like it weighed as much as a small child. Ready? She asked. As I'll ever be. The conference room was all polished wood and tension. I settled into a chair beside Lila while the court reporter set up her equipment. When Michaela entered, I barely recognized her. Gone was the casual style I'd known for years. She wore a cream blouse that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment, hair pulled back in a severe bun that aged her 5 years. Then Derek walked in behind her. Seeing them together felt like taking a chisel to the sternum. He was exactly what I'd pictured. Too tight shirt, cocky slouch, the kind of guy who calls strangers chief. Their lawyer, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses, nodded curtly. Let the record show all parties are present, the stenographer announced. Michaela stared at me like I was a disappointing appliance she'd ordered online. Derek just smirked. Lila opened with questions about our financial history. Michaela answered in clipped sentences, painting herself as the supportive wife who'd sacrificed for my dream. "Mrs. Lawson, did you manage the household finances?" Lila asked. "Yes." Gordon was too busy with his tools to bother. "So you were aware of all income and expenditures?" "Of course." Lila slid a document across the table. "Can you explain these withdrawals?" Michaela's eyes flicked over the page. "Personal expenses. $1,200 at the Harborview Hotel isn't a personal expense, it's a marital asset being used for an extramarital affair," Lila countered. Michaela's lawyer leaned forward. "My client's personal spending isn't relevant." "It is when she's seeking spousal support based on financial need," Lila replied. The morning crawled by. Michaela claimed I'd hidden cash jobs, that North Coast Carpentry had undeclared income. Derek nodded along, occasionally whispering in her ear. When it was Derek's turn, he slouched forward. Gordon knew about us for months. He told Michaela he didn't care who she was with as long as she kept the books balanced. I felt my jaw tighten. "That's a lie." Lila placed a hand on my arm. "Mr. Lawson, when did you first meet Gordon?" Derek shifted. "Last year sometime." "Can you be more specific?" "I don't remember exact dates." Lila pulled out another document. "Records show you began paying rent on your apartment 6 months ago. Before that, you lived with your mother. Is that correct?" Derek's smirk faltered. "Yeah, so? And how did you afford the $1,800 security deposit?" He glanced at Michaela. "I saved up. Your bank records show a cash deposit of exactly $1,800 2 days before signing your lease." Lila tapped a highlighted line. "Mrs. Lawson, did you withdraw $1,800 from your joint account on March 15th? Michaela's face hardened. "I don't recall." Lila produced a bank statement. "The record shows you did." The afternoon continued like a slow-motion car crash. Lila systematically exposed thousands Michaela had spent on Derek, weekend trips, rent assistance, even a watch that cost more than my first table saw. "Mr. Lawson works 60-hour weeks building his business," Lila said. "Meanwhile, Mrs. Lawson used marital funds to finance her affair." Michaela's composure finally cracked. "Gordon was boring. He only cared about wood and tools. Derek understands me. We have a connection." Her lawyer winced. When the judge announced his ruling 3 days later, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in months. I retained full ownership of North Coast Carpentry. The house would be sold, but I'd get 70% of the equity. No spousal support. "Congratulations," Lila said, shaking my hand outside the courthouse. "You should feel good about this." I watched Michaela storm to her car, Derek trailing behind looking lost. I feel relieved. That evening, I met Aubrey at Coastal Grill. She'd texted after I'd shared the verdict, suggesting dinner to celebrate. "To justice," she said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. "And to moving forward." Dinner with Aubrey was easy. She told stories about a photo shoot gone wrong when the client's dog crashed the set, and I found myself laughing. Really laughing, for the first time in months. "Remember Mrs. Holloway from English?" she asked, halfway through dessert. How could I forget? She made me rewrite my catcher in the rye essay 3 times. She's dating the hardware store owner now. Carla told me they met in the paint section. Small towns. I shook my head, smiling. Walking her to her car afterward, I realized I felt something I'd thought was gone forever. Happiness. The simple, uncomplicated kind that comes from good company and honest conversation. "Thanks for tonight," I said. "Anytime." She smiled. "I mean that." I drove back to Mason's house with the windows down, letting the cool night air clear my head. Michaela had been so certain I'd never find someone like her. She was right, thank God. Pulling into the driveway, my headlights caught something white fluttering on Mason's front door. As I got closer, I saw it was an envelope taped to the wood, my name written in familiar handwriting. I tore it open and felt the evening's warmth drain away. Another legal notice from Michaela. I tore open the envelope, my fingers stiff with dread. The fancy legal letterhead hit me first, then the words, "Motion to modify settlement." Michaela was going after everything. Again. I scanned the document. my stomach dropping with each paragraph. She claimed I'd been hiding cash income from North Coast carpentry jobs, work I supposedly never reported. She'd discovered evidence that I'd concealed assets during discovery. But what really made my blood boil was the part about Aubrey. Respondent's new paramour, Aubrey James, is directly benefiting from marital property and assets. My hands shook. Paramour? Marital property? We'd barely started dating, and Aubrey had never even set foot in the house Michaela and I had shared. Mason found me at the kitchen table staring at the papers. "What's that?" he asked, setting down his keys. "Michaela. She's coming after me again." I pushed the papers toward him. "She's dragging Aubrey into it now." Mason skimmed the document, his expression darkening. "This is bullshit, pure bullshit." "I know." I rubbed my face. "I need to call Lila." Despite the late hour, Lila answered. I could hear her clicking through emails as I explained. "Forward me the documents immediately," she said, her voice steady. "This is harassment, plain and simple. We'll file a response and a motion for sanctions first thing tomorrow." She mentioned Aubrey, called her my paramour. "It's a desperate play," Lila said. "She's hoping to rattle you by attacking someone you care about. Don't let it work." After hanging up, I called Aubrey. No answer. I left a message asking her to call me back, trying to keep the worry from my voice. The next morning, my phone rang at 7:03 a.m. "Aubrey." "Gordon?" Her voice sounded tight. "I just got a certified letter from someone claiming to be Michaela's attorney." My chest tightened. "What does it say?" "It says I'm trespassing on marital property whenever I'm at your place. That I could face harassment charges if I don't cease contact with you during pending litigation." She paused. "Gordon, what's going on?" I closed my eyes, leaning against the kitchen counter. "Michaela filed a motion to modify our settlement. She's trying every angle." "There's more," Aubrey said, her voice catching. "The Harmon athletic wear campaign I told you about, they just put it on hold. My agent called saying someone contacted them with concerns about my personal situation and involvement in ongoing legal disputes." I gripped the phone harder. "That was Michaela. This is my job, Gordon, my reputation. I can't afford—" "I know. I'm so sorry." The guilt crashed over me like a wave. "This is because of me." "No," Aubrey said firmly. "This is because of her. There's a difference." We agreed to meet for coffee later. I hung up and pressed my forehead against the cool window, trying to rein in the anger building inside me. Michaela wasn't just coming after me anymore. She was trying to destroy Aubrey's career. A woman who'd done nothing wrong except show interest in me. When I arrived at Lila's office, she was already drafting motions. "We're filing for sanctions," she said without looking up. "This is harassment and abuse of process. We're also requesting a limited protective order to prevent your ex-wife from contacting Aubrey's professional contacts. Will that help her campaign? Once we expose what Michaela's doing, the company should reinstate her." Lila looked up. "But we need something more definitive to shut this down permanently." "Like what?" "Like proof her claims about hidden income are fabricated." She tapped her pen on the desk. "We have your meticulous books, but juries can be swayed by convincing liars. We need someone who knows she's lying to confirm it." I knew immediately who she meant. "Derek." "Exactly. Mason was waiting when I got back to his place. He'd made sandwiches and had a beer waiting." "You look like hell," he said. "Feel like it too." I sank into a chair. "Michaela's gone after Aubrey's job." Mason shook his head. "Don't lose focus. That's exactly what she wants. What am I supposed to do, just let her ruin Aubrey's career?" "No. You fight back. Smart. Not angry." He pointed toward my office space. "You've got your evidence box. You've got Lila. You've got the truth. Lila thinks we need Derek," I said. "Someone who knows Michaela's lying." Mason took a long pull of his beer. "I might know where to find him. He's been bouncing at Tully's on weeknights." I stared at my sandwich, appetite gone. If Derek tells the truth, this all ends. Michaela's motion gets thrown out, Aubrey gets her campaign back, and I can finally move on. Later that night, I sat in my makeshift office staring at the evidence box. Inside was every record, every receipt, every text message, proof of who I was and what I'd built. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I needed Derek. The man who'd helped destroy my marriage might be the only one who could end Michaela's crusade. Mason insisted on driving to Tully's, said I was too wound up to be behind the wheel. He wasn't wrong. My hands had been shaking since I'd heard about Aubrey's campaign getting frozen. "Remember," Mason said as we parked across from the bar's neon sign, "we're just having a drink. Keep it casual." "Right. Casual." I flexed my fingers, trying to release the tension building in my shoulders. Inside, the place was dim and half empty, a Tuesday night special. Derek stood behind the bar, his muscular frame obvious even in the low light. He was laughing with a customer, all easy charm and practiced smiles. "There he is," Mason muttered. We took seats at the far end of the bar. When Derek spotted us, his face hardened for a split second before that bouncer confidence slid back into place. He sauntered over. "What can I get you?" His eyes darted between us, lingering suspiciously on me. "2 beers, Mason said. "Whatever's on tap." Derek set the glasses down with unnecessary force, splashing foam onto the bar. "Funny seeing you here." I took a slow sip. "Small town. Look, if you're here to cause trouble, just having a drink," I said, "though I am curious about something." He crossed his arms. "What's that?" "The condo Michaela promised you. Did she mention it would be paid for with my business?" I kept my voice even, casual, just like Mason had advised. Derek's confidence faltered. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. The divorce money she was going to use to set you two up." I leaned forward slightly. "Has she mentioned her latest scheme? The one where she's trying to ruin an innocent woman's career?" A muscle in Derek's jaw twitched. "That wasn't my idea." Mason chuckled. "So there was an idea." Derek glanced around the empty bar, then leaned in. "Look, I'm not getting dragged into your mess. Michaela's got her own plans." "Plans that include lying about cash jobs I never did?" I asked. Something flashed across Derek's face. Guilt, maybe, or just self-preservation. He lowered his voice. "She said you'd hide money all the time. Said it would be easy to convince a judge. And you believed her?" "I don't know, man." He wiped the bar with a rag, avoiding my eyes. "She talks a lot, big plans, big promises." "Like the condo," Mason prompted. Derek nodded reluctantly. "Said once the settlement came through, we'd get a place downtown. Then started talking about how she'd starve your business until you gave in." He looked uncomfortable now. "I didn't sign up to ruin anyone." I sat back, disgusted but relieved. "She's going after someone else now, someone who has nothing to do with any of this." "The model?" Derek asked, confirming he knew more than he should. "You knew about that too?" He shrugged. "She was excited about it, said it would hit you where it hurt." We finished our drinks in silence. As we stood to leave, I placed my card on the bar. "My attorney will probably want to talk to you." Derek stared at the card. "Michaela will lose it if I talk." "She's already losing it," I said. "Question is whether you want to go down with her." 3 days later, Lila called with news. Derek got subpoenaed. Turns out he was more than willing to talk once it was official. What did he say? Everything. The condo promises, the plan to claim you hid cash jobs, even Michaela's admission that she was trying to starve your business until you gave in. He confirmed she bragged about going after Aubrey's modeling contracts too. Lila sounded satisfied. This is exactly what we needed. Armed with Derek's testimony and our mountain of financial evidence, I requested a meeting with Michaela. Face to face. No lawyers for the first 10 minutes. I needed to see her reaction when she realized it was over. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our lawyers' offices. I arrived early, chose a corner table with good visibility, and waited. When Michaela walked in, she wasn't alone. Her attorney trailed behind her, briefcase in hand. So much for the 10-minute agreement. I stood as they approached. "I thought we agreed to talk alone first." Michaela gave me a cool smile. "I changed my mind. You understand." They sat down across from me. I took a deep breath and looked her directly in the eyes. Derek gave a sworn statement. I said flatly, "He told my attorney everything. The condo you promised him with divorce money, your plan to claim I was hiding cash jobs, and how you bragged about going after Aubrey's career." Her face tightened. but she maintained her composure. Derek is confused and desperate. The bank records aren't confused, I continued. Neither are the texts, or the hotel receipts, or the Airbnb confirmations. Her attorney shifted uncomfortably. Here's what happens next, I said. You withdraw your motion, you stop contacting Aubrey's agent, and you accept the terms already on the table. Or we go to court, and you explain Derek's statement and the bank records to a judge who's already skeptical of your claims. Michaela leaned forward, her voice softening to that intimate tone she used to use when she wanted something. You still love me, Gordon. You wouldn't do this. The confidence in her voice made my stomach turn. Even now she thought she could manipulate me. I don't love you, I said evenly. I respect myself, and I'm done financing your chaos. Her face hardened. You think you've won? That you and your little model girlfriend get a happy ending? This isn't about winning, I said. It's about stopping you from hurting people who don't deserve it. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I'll see you in court, Gordon. Don't think this is over. As she stormed out, her attorney lingering just long enough to give me an apologetic glance, I remained seated watching her go. The meeting had gone exactly as I'd expected, Michaela refusing to back down, even when cornered. Fine. Court it was. Court day arrived with a crisp morning chill that matched my mood. I wore my best suit, the one I'd bought for business meetings with high-end clients, and arrived early with Lila. We set up our evidence folders in neat stacks, bank statements, text messages, hotel receipts, and Derek's sworn testimony in a sealed envelope. Ready? Lila asked, arranging her notepad. More than ready, I said. Let's finish this. When Michaela entered with her attorney, she barely glanced my way. She wore a conservative navy dress I'd never seen before, her hair pulled back in a tight bun. The courtroom persona, demure and victimized, was a stark contrast to the woman who'd stormed out of the coffee shop. The judge, a silver-haired woman with piercing eyes, called the court to order. We're here on respondent's motion for sanctions and petitioner's motion to modify. Let's start with Ms. Earwig. Lila rose, calm and methodical. Your Honor, Ms. Lawson has engaged in a pattern of deliberate misrepresentation and financial misconduct. She's now expanded her vindictive behavior to target third parties, specifically Mr. Lawson's girlfriend, Aubrey James. Lila walked the judge through our evidence step by step. The bank transfers to Derek, the expenses at hotels, the pattern of withdrawals that matched Derek's rent payments. When she introduced Derek's testimony, Michaela visibly stiffened. Mr. Derek Adams states under oath that Ms. Lawson promised him a condominium purchased with, quote, divorce money she planned to extract from my client, Lila continued. He further testifies that Ms. Lawson deliberately planted the false claim about unreported cash jobs and bragged about plans to, quote, starve Gordon's business until he gave in. The judge turned to Michaela's attorney. Response? Michaela's lawyer stood, already looking defeated. Your Honor, Mr. Adams is hardly a reliable witness. His testimony should be viewed with skepticism given his relationship with my client. The judge's eyebrows rose. Are you suggesting your client's paramour is lying under oath about the nature of their relationship and discussions? I'm suggesting he may have misunderstood. These bank records don't suggest misunderstanding, the judge interrupted, holding up the statements. They show a pattern. For 2 hours, we watched Michaela's case collapse. Her attorney tried to pivot, arguing that emotional support for my business justified her claims, but the judge wasn't having it. Counsel, the judge finally said, your client has presented no credible evidence to support modification. Meanwhile, respondent has shown substantial evidence of financial misconduct and witness tampering. I glanced at Michaela. Her face had gone pale, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. The judge continued. The court denies petitioner's motion to modify and grants respondent's motion for sanctions. She fixed Michaela with a stern look. Ms. Lawson, you are ordered to reimburse marital funds spent on Mr. Adams in the amount of $14,327. You will pay Mr. Lawson's attorney fees for this hearing. Furthermore, a limited protective order is issued. You are to have no contact with Aubrey James and no interference with North Coast Carpentry or its business operations. I felt my shoulders drop, tension draining away. The weight I'd been carrying since that first cold morning was lifting. As we left the courtroom, Lila squeezed my arm. "It's over, Gordon. You did it." My phone buzzed with a text from Aubrey. "Campaign reinstated. Brand called with apology. How did it go?" I smiled and texted back, "We won. Everything. Celebrate tonight?" Her response came instantly. "Your deck. I'll bring takeout." 7 p.m. That evening, sitting on my back deck with containers of Thai food spread between us, Aubrey and I watched the sunset. The spring air carried the scent of new growth, and for the first time in months, I laughed without restraint. "To justice," Aubrey said, raising her water glass, "and to new beginnings." We clinked glasses, and I felt something settle inside me, a peace I'd forgotten existed. As we headed to our cars later, I noticed a familiar sedan across the parking lot. Michaela sat behind the wheel, watching us. When she saw me notice her, she didn't look away. Instead, she stared, her face twisted with what could only be jealousy. I turned my back and walked Aubrey to her car, focusing on what mattered. That night, just after midnight, my phone lit up with a text from Michaela. "I missed the safety. We can fix this." I stared at the screen for a long moment, feeling nothing but clarity. My thumb moved decisively across the keys, typing a single word. "No." 1 year later, I woke before my alarm. Habit, I guess. The room was quiet except for the soft rhythm of Aubrey's breathing beside me. Early morning light filtered through the blinds I'd installed last summer, casting stripes across the maple floors I'd refinished myself. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake her. She had a flight to catch in a few hours, a 2-day shoot for a fitness apparel line that wanted her as their spring campaign face. The house felt different now. Not empty, even when I was alone in it. Just peaceful. In the hallway, Aubrey's portfolio leaned against the wall, ready for her trip. I ran my hand along the banister I'd replaced, remembering how the old one had wobbled under Michaela's grip that final morning. It's strange how memories attach to the smallest things. A loose banister, a coffee mug, the sound of a suitcase being dragged across hardwood. I started the coffee maker and checked my phone. 3 new project requests had come in overnight. North Coast Carpentry wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. We had a 6-month wait list and a second crew I'd hired last quarter. Some mornings I still couldn't believe how much had changed. "Morning," Aubrey said, appearing in the doorway in one of my old t-shirts. Her hair was messy, her smile easy. No makeup, no pretense, just Aubrey. "Coffee's almost ready," I told her. "Nervous about the shoot?" She shook her head. "They're good people, and it's only 2 days. She wrapped her arms around my waist from behind. "I'll be back Sunday for chili night with your dad and Mason." I turned to face her. "They'd understand if you needed to stay longer." "I wouldn't." She grinned. "Your dad's chili is worth flying back for. Besides, I promised Mason I'd bring him that hot sauce from the airport shop." This was our rhythm now. Easy, honest, no scorekeeping, no walking on eggshells. Just 2 people building something solid together. While Aubrey showered, I scrolled through emails, confirming appointments with clients. My thumb paused over a name I recognized, the owner of the cafe where Michaela now worked. He wanted custom shelving for his expansion. Small town circles. I'd seen Michaela a few times around town. After the sanctions hit and Derek disappeared with whatever cash he could squeeze from her, she'd moved into a small rental on the east side. She picked up shifts wherever she could, the cafe, the pharmacy checkout, weekend hostessing at the Marina restaurant. The divorce condo fantasy had evaporated with the court's final judgment. Last month, I'd spotted her across the grocery store. Our eyes met briefly before she looked away, that familiar flash of something green and bitter crossing her face, the same look she'd worn watching Aubrey and me from her car that night after court. I felt nothing but a distant pity. You know what's funny? When Michaela said I'd never find someone like her, she meant it as the ultimate insult. Now it feels like the greatest gift she ever gave me. Aubrey emerged from the bathroom, already dressed for travel. "What time's your first client?" she asked, packing her carry-on. 9, kitchen remodel consultation in Oak Ridge. Should be straightforward. She nodded. "Text me when you're done. I land around 3 tomorrow so I can grab an Uber straight to your dad's." I watched her gather her things, efficient and focused. No drama, no demands. Just partnership. I'll pick you up, I said. No need for an Uber. She smiled. Are you sure? It's out of your way. I'm sure. Peace isn't fancy or dramatic. It's not a lightning strike or a grand gesture. It's waking up next to someone who respects your work. It's knowing your business is solid because you protected it. It's Sunday chili with your dad and your best friend and the woman who sees you clearly. At the airport, I waited while Aubrey checked in. Through the glass wall, I watched her walk toward security, portfolio in hand. She turned back once, waved, and I felt that certainty again, the kind that settles in your bones. If you've ever been betrayed, you know the scars don't vanish. They just stop defining you. They become markers of battles fought and won, reminders of your own resilience. I learned when to fight for what matters, when to walk from what doesn't, and how to build something that lasts, with honest hands and clear eyes. As Aubrey disappeared into the security line, I thought about Michaela's last text. I missed the safety. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd thrown away safety for excitement, then lost both. I turned and walked back to my truck, toward the life I'd protected and rebuilt. Michaela was right about one thing. I never did find someone like her. I found someone better. And more importantly, I found myself. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.